You very briefly touched upon the conditioning of a child. If a child is always told that you're not good enough, you cannot do this, the child ends up believing that he or she cannot do anything around that particular thing for which he or she is being continuously being conditioned, being condemned,
Yes.
versus the way athletes are brought up. Now, often in our lives, and I believe that's the normal human tendency. I might be wrong when I'm saying this, but as from my understanding serves me, we learn by observing. Like you told that a lot of Japanese teachers are not very explicit. They want
Yes.
you to observe and learn and then perform.
Yes.
So how so there are two parts to this whole thing. One is realizing your own self potential, and second is breaking from the shackles that are restricting you to achieve that potential of yours.
This, you know, in the work that I do, myself and other similar people like to say, oh, that reminds me of a story. And here's a story that there was this young elephant in a zoo,
Hmm.
and they were making major renovations in this zoo. So they built a cage out in the yard, out in a very big, expensive yard, and they put the elephant in the cage because they were going to be working and they didn't want, they didn't want to get injured by the elephant or whatever. And they didn't want the elephant also to run away out of the expensive area. So the renovation took much longer than they were expecting. It took about a full year. And that elephant developed this way of walking around in the cage. Like he would walk to one end of the cage, he would walk back. Then he'd like look around. Then he'd walk to one end of the cage and then walk back and look around like that. Like many times a day. So they finally finish all of the renovations. They get a crane to lift up the cage. And what did the elephant do? You might think, oh, he started walking all over the place. No, he walked as if he was still in the cage. He walked like 20 feet, turned around, came back, looked around, went back 20 feet. So he had this habit, this experience of reality that being in a cage is what he knew most because he was a young elephant when they put him in the cage in the first place.
Yeah,
So is that me or you? I'm not going to answer it, but I have to at least get the ringing to stop
sure.
and know where my phone is. Luca, me, Luca, you. So, if I was to meet someone and I said, "So how are you doing in your life, my friend?" And they said to me, "Oh, every day is fantastic. One day is just better than the next. I'm making even more money this year than I made last year, and I got a perfect wife, and blah 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 blah." Quickly, I wouldn't believe them. Life is a challenge. I like to playfully say life is a full-time activity. And for so many of us, we have no choice but to take the really bad education we got from our parents or even from our school system and to transcend it, which means pulling the cage up and realizing there's no more cage or taking the shackles off my wrists so I can move around freely. And however it is we each do that is an important part of our life journey. And I got a lot from Aikido and Noguchi Seitai and NLP. I wouldn't suggest in general that everybody study that. It's not, no, it's of course not. Just
Yeah,
like everybody's not going to like vanilla ice cream. Some people like chocolate ice cream better. I don't understand why. I think that's crazy. Vanilla is absolutely the better taste. So I have friends Like I was very much into dance for a while. And if you knew me, you'd most likely go, "You dancing? Are you kidding?" Um, but I got into what's called expressive dancing. I wasn't trying to look like Baryshnikov or something. Um, but I got into dancing to where the teacher would, for instance, say, "Be sad today and dance a sad dance." And he'd put you on the middle of the floor. And if you did something that looked like it was a cartoon or something, he'd stop you immediately and say, "This is nonsense. Sit back down again and pull up the next person." You know, and he might, in fact, say, "You, I want you to dance as if you're really, really happy today." You know, so that there is literally an endless number of different ways that we can express ourselves in life. We need to find out what's an expression, a way of expressing, like playing a musical instrument, dancing, painting, making pottery, whatever. There's so many different arts we can do. And express yourself through that art. Express yourself in a way that you can't normally express yourself using words. And in that expression, you'll find something really important about yourself. A couple of things I'm just thinking about now is Gregory Bateson, who I think was one of the greatest thinkers in the 20th century, said the major problems in the world are the result of the differences between how nature works and how people think. So you can really, you can decide to be a person that goes into nature, that takes inspiration from nature, and you could go back into your importing or exporting business or something and use that experience to become better at importing or exporting. You know, I think that, and there's just another thing. I'm just looking at a couple of quotes in this one document I have, is most people tiptoe through life hoping to make it safely to death, is what this one person said, Earl Nightingale. So instead of tiptoeing through life, what if we went through life expressing ourselves? And again, I don't mean, clapping my hands and making it necessary for people to stop eating to watch me. But for instance, if they're eating a meal, I have a friend here, a Spanish man who's a fantastic chef. He expresses himself through cooking. So in Japanese thinking, we believe if you really want to cultivate yourself the most, you should have three arts. So, for instance, Aikido would be one art. I wrote a book about my life in Japan that was well received. I think that was a second art. Okay. And then helping other people, I think, is my third art. And when I put all of that together, I wind up feeling good about myself. I get a really nice response from other people. And I feel like I have a purpose on this earth because the purpose that I have on earth, for me anyway, needs to be bigger and more important than the importance of doing good for Charlie. I want to somewhat touch the lives of many people as I walk through life. And one of the things I like to do here, I mean, I'm 76 already, so I say older people, and it's funny but I see an older person struggling to get across the highway because they can't walk fast enough. I pull up my truck, my pickup truck. I get out of my truck. I talk to the person. They're surprised I can speak Thai. I'm not great at Thai, but I can speak it. And say, "Come on." And I take their hand and then I put the other hand up like this. The cars stop. I walk them across. There's a divider in the middle. So it's four lanes. We walk across. And sometimes some of these people are close to tears. By the time we get to the other, not only did I help them, and they say, "Oh, I have so much trouble crossing the street every day. I wish you were here every day," but also because I'm a foreigner. And they say, "Thank you so much." And I turn around and I say, "That's it. I did everything I need to do for today." So I mean, it's easy for me to say this now at my age of 76, but I think what's so fantastic is if you can make a good living for yourself and in the process also help other people.
So true, Charlie. I really, echo with these thoughts. And just one final question to you before we wrap up our podcast for today. The importance of curiosity in the journey of self appreciation, taking responsibility, and building meaningful relationships out there.
Okay, I didn't quite get it. So the importance of curiosity, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was looking into the importance of curiosity for self appreciation, taking responsibility, and building meaningful relationships, in the society.
Well, I'll tell you the part of what you just said. That's like about a three-part question, actually. The part
Yeah.
that really stands out for me is taking responsibility for your own actions. And like I have a woman friend for years and years and years now, an American woman, and I we used to work together, and we'd be somewhere crowded, and someone would step on her toe, and my woman friend would say, "Excuse me," as if she had stepped on the other person's toe, you know? And when I asked her about that, she said, "Well, anyway," she said, "it's not a big deal, but I think if I was being a little bit more mindful, I could have maybe moved before just before that person stepped on my foot, you know? So that usually when people, and you really see this in married couples that aren't doing well, they always blame the partner. You know, my wife, she's so X, Y, and Z. I can't get along with her anymore. Oh, and meanwhile, I'm guessing you're a really nice person. It's just that she's X, Y, and Z. And in fact, they'll even say, yeah, that's exactly what I mean, you know? So they don't, there's an old fashioned expression in America anyway that it takes two to tango. So to do the tango, there's no tango if you're only dancing by yourself. So that any relationship you're in, you're at least 50% of that relationship, hopefully, which means you take responsibility for when you said something that wasn't quite that nice, or maybe you forget your wife or girlfriend's birthday or whatever, whatever, whatever. And curiosity is just like I have five little puppies in my yard now. And I tell you, sometimes I sit here for like an hour watching the puppies play. And the puppies are amazing. They do this play fighting. Like one puppy takes his mouth and puts it over the throat of the other puppy and goes, "Rrr," but he's not hurting the other puppy and everything. And but the biggest thing is they're so curious. Huh? They hear a new noise that they haven't heard before, which is almost everything because they're so young, and they go towards that new noise. And for the most part, they don't have any fear, you know. So when we start to lose our, if we start to lose our curiosity, oh my goodness, that's a big problem, I think, because it means that you've lost your curiosity and enjoyment of life. Yeah, so I look to be respectful of other people. I look to truly understand them. And I ask questions to see if I do indeed understand them. Often, if I'm not getting along well with someone, it turns out that I don't understand them. And when I do ask questions about what's important to them, they invariably get a better opinion of me, like pretty much on the spot. So like that, if I did, I don't know if I did a good job of answering that or not, but that's what I had to say anyway.
No, surely, Charlie, that was bang on point. And thanks a lot for your time today. I really appreciate you sharing the insights around self-appreciation and the responsibility of our own actions, taking the responsibility. That's really important and imperative in our, regular journey. And before we wind up, any final thoughts for our listeners?
2.5 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I am now cancer free, thank goodness. But the treatment was very, very challenging. The chemotherapy and the radiation, it's horrible. And when I first discovered my cancer, I had stage 4 cancer. And I got the doctor to promise to me that he would talk to me truthfully. And he said, "You have stage 4 cancer, and frankly, that means that you're not supposed to live through this." And I said, "Wow, okay, thank you for, I don't like hearing that, but thank you so much for telling me that." And here it is 2.5 years later, and I'm alive, and I'm talking to you and your podcast audience. So everything that happens to every one of us can be a new opportunity to say thank you to whoever your God is. I'm not selling any religion. Whoever your God is, to say thank you, thank you, thank you, and to realize just how much you do have. And I've come away from my cancer experience, number one, having a new appreciation for myself because I did make it through when the doctor said, the medical community will tell you you won't live through this. And I said, but I will, you know, and I did really believe that. And a new appreciation for life. So there's so many beautiful things in life. There's so many beautiful people. There's so many beautiful experiences waiting for you. But what's really, really crucial is you'll have to help a lot of that get started. If you're walking around with a frowning face and, slumped over like this, people aren't going to say hello, for instance. But if you're smiling, uh, people say hello, and the next thing you know, you're helping somebody across the street, or they're helping you, and you go, "Oh my God, this is fantastic." So life is a blessing. Please accept that blessing. Please be thankful for that blessing. And please look forward to sharing those blessings with other people. That's what I have to say.
Thanks a lot, Charlie. I totally echo with this, and we have seen multiple examples where if we take the life, it is the way it is coming to us, the life is much more beautiful. And
Yes.
with this, I would like to really, be in gratitude for taking out time and sharing your wisdom with our listeners.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me, and I hope that I've been of some service. So thank you.
Totally. Thanks a lot. And listeners, if you have any questions or any comments or your own thoughts to share with us, please feel free to put it on our comments or reach out to us DM. Thanks a lot.